So we did the survey of nearly 6,000 U.S. workers. And, the purpose of the survey was to see how the pandemic has impacted the way Americans work, both those who can work from home and those who are having to go into their workplace and might be concerned about their own health or spreading the virus to others. And so one of the things that we found is that there's been a huge shift to telework. And among those who can do their work from home, a majority would like to continue to work from home when the pandemic is over. And that's in large part because people have been able to adapt fairly easily in terms of having the technology at home, having the workspace, being able to meet their deadlines. But of course, it's important to remember that the majority of workers cannot work from home. And so we found that of those, many are not satisfied with the things that their employers have put into place to keep them safe. And many are concerned about, their own health and also the health of others that they might come into contact with at work. We see a big socioeconomic divide in terms of who is able to do their work from home and who isn't able to do that. And so overall, about 4 in 10 workers say that their work can mainly be done from home. And they tend to be, those with higher levels of income and educational attainment. So a large share of those with postgraduate degrees or with a bachelor's degree say that their work can mainly be done from home. And in contrast, a majority of 7 in 10 or more of those with some college or less education say the same. Similarly, with income, a majority of upper income workers say they can do their work from home. While a majority of those with middle and lower income say that they cannot do their work from home. And so there's a very big income and educational gap when it comes to who is and isn't able to do their work from home. So about 4 in 10 workers who are not working from home all or most of the time, so who are going in at least some of the time, are saying that they're very satisfied with the measures that have been put in place by their employers in order to keep them safe from the coronavirus. And one thing that's interesting here is that just as we see a socioeconomic divide in terms of who is and isn't able to work from home, when we look at those who are going into their workplace, we also see a socioeconomic divide. And here what we see is that upper income workers who are going into their workplace are more satisfied than those with lower incomes about the measures that have been put into place to keep them safe. One thing that I thought was really interesting, and I think it also speaks to sort of how people have adapted to working from home and why it might be that so many people would like to keep working from home, is that we asked about video conferencing tools and online instant messaging tools and technology that people might be using to keep in touch with their coworkers and to be able to do their work. And one of the things that was really interesting is that for those who are working from home all or most of the time, a majority, almost 2/3 of them, said that they think these platforms, these online tools, are a good substitute for in-person contact and in-person connection with their coworkers. And a similar share among those who use these platforms, or especially those who use video conferencing such as Zoom and WebEx, they say that they're fine with the amount of the amount of time that they spend on these platforms. And so it's interesting because we hear a lot about what some people call Zoom fatigue, and at least to the extent that it applies to those who are teleworking and the extent to which they use these platforms for work, we're not necessarily seeing that. Of course, about a third or a little bit more than a third say they are worn out by it. And about a third say that they're not a good these platforms are not a good substitute. And so it's not that everybody has embraced these technologies as a substitute for in-person contact, but a very large share have found them to be useful and have found them to be a good substitute for the in-person in-office connections. It'll be interesting to see if these preferences really translate into a change in the way people work. It'll be interesting to see how employers respond to this sort of desire to remain teleworking. And it may be, we don't know, and we'll keep tracking this, that once things do go back to normal and workplaces are able to reopen and children go back to school and things sort of go back to normal, it'll be interesting to see if these preferences remain, or if people will then want to return to the type of life they had before. And so, it'll be something that we'll be tracking and looking at to see if these preferences that people are expressing now translate into a real change in the way people behave and the way people work.